This break is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook, head over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Now, this week is Super Week for the League of Legends LCS, or Hell Week, as Dignitas' Skara likes to call it. The North American region has already played a huge 12 games on Wednesday, and there's more to come on Thursday and Friday. As if on cue in time for Hell Week, back from his period of illness is our very own Troy Blackburn. Troy, we're so glad to have you back. How's it going?
It's going pretty well, feeling a lot better. It feels like it's been absolutely forever since we've gotten to talk about League of Legends. And as you may tell from the sound of my voice, I'm not quite 100% yet, but we absolutely have to talk about Super Week. Just to let you know, the footage that you're watching right now is actually from a previous week's game, because the highlights from yesterday's games weren't available when we recorded this. Even Riot employees have to sleep, I guess, after 13-something hours of streaming.
All right then, I guess so.
So yesterday we saw 12 games between the North American teams, and after some 12 or so hours of watching League of Legends, I really couldn't tell you for sure what time I finally went to bed last night. There was definitely no shortage of surprises and upsets, but talking about those games could take another 12 hours, so let's just hit some of the biggest wins of the day. The first being Marn upsetting CLG. CLG looked really sloppy, and they lost to a Marn team who's now in a position to challenge them for that fourth place spot in the standings. So CLG needs to step up, or they're going to be the first of the more established teams to drop out of the top 4. The other big win of the day was Dignitas finally handing Curse their first loss of the season. Not only did Dignitas beat Curse, but they made them look bad while they did it. Now, some of that can be chalked up to Curse being mentally exhausted at the end of a long day, but Dignitas showed some potential chinks in the Curse armor, and they're poised to be able to potentially take that first place spot away from Curse this week.
Wow, so everyone loves a little bit of an upset. That's got some exciting stuff there. It's nice to see it where the sort of standings aren't kind of pre-decided. So that adds a bit more excitement as well. But there was an absolute ton going on Wednesday. So hard to keep up with, Troy. I mean, well done for the marathon watching session. But what's coming up now for the North American teams on Thursday and Friday?
Well, on Thursday, we're going to start out with TSM versus Vulcan. And a win here for TSM is going to keep them on pace with Curse and Dignitas in that top 3 standing and really give them a chance to fight for that first place contention. If they lose to Vulcan here, they're going to find themselves back in a muck battle between CLG and Marn in a 3-team battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. Vulcan's been playing a lot better recently, but they've only won 1 game on Wednesday since going 3-0 in week 3. And this is another big team that they could see a lot of problems with. The next game on Thursday is going to be Dignitas versus Complexity. Dignitas is on an absolute tear right now, and after they handed Curse their first loss of the LCS, Dignitas now has the longest winning streak in the North American LCS. Complexity is only 1-6, and they really need their fortunes to change here. But Dignitas looks pretty unstoppable at the moment, so I don't really see Complexity having much of a chance here. GGU versus Marn will be after that, and Marn has managed to pull itself up into a fight with CLG for 4th place, especially after they upset CLG late last night. And GGU is now sitting at the absolute bottom of the standings with a record of 1-9. This is a must-win for Marn if they want to have a chance at leaping one of the more established teams and going over CLG for that 4th place in the standings, and Marn really needs a win here to get themselves out of the gutter. The last game on Thursday is going to be CLG versus Curse. This is going to be Curse's first game back after Dignitas beat them yesterday. If they lose this one, this could be the game that puts Dignitas ahead of them in 1st place in the standings. So they really need to come out strong here. And also CLG is going to be looking for some redemption if they gave up that loss to Marn yesterday and try to reestablish themselves after getting embarrassed by that team.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, is it right that if Curse lose this game against CLG, they're actually going to be dropping from 1st place for the first time since the LCS began? Is that right?
As long as Dignitas beats Complexity,
Whoa.
if Curse loses to CLG, they could drop.
So if Dignitas beats Complexity and Curse loses to CLG, they're going to see a bit of a reshuffling in the standings there. So there's kind of some exciting stuff on Thursday to watch. But what about Friday?
Well, Friday starts off with another Curse game, this time versus TSM, another team that they could have trouble with. There again, if they lose here, they're really going to find themselves falling out of that 1st place position fast. TSM's been looking pretty strong overall in a League of Legends standings. And a win over Curse here is going to put them really up there in contention for that first place battle with Dignitas. The next game on Friday is going to be Complexity versus CLG. And CLG is probably primarily of the established teams that have struggled quite a bit against the newer teams. So they're really going to need to pull out a win here to prove that they're better than some of the newer teams out there and keep themselves from falling out of that fourth place position and kind of falling down in with some of the newer teams. Next up on Friday is going to be Marn versus Dignitas. And obviously, this is a very important game for Marn. Dignitas is on an absolute roll, and they look unstoppable. If Marn can take them out here, this could be the momentum they need to shoot past CLG in the standings and also knock Dignitas down a peg. And that could put Marn right in the running with all the other teams for one of those top 4 spots. The last game on Friday is going to be Vulcan versus GGU. And Vulcan hasn't exactly had the easiest of schedules since they went 3-0 in week 3. But this is going to be their chance there to prove that they don't belong at the bottom of the LCS standings where they were for so long the first few weeks. And GGU is going to have a chance to prove that their record doesn't necessarily reflect the quality of League of Legends play that they've been putting out there. They've played some decent games. They've just had a hard time pulling out wins in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a really exciting couple of days with the North American teams there. Thanks so much for that, Troy. An absolute ton of League of Legends action to be feasting your eyes on over the next couple of days. And do check back on Monday for Troy's review, as well as tomorrow for our European preview for the games over the weekend. There's going to be an absolute ton of League of Legends for Troy to review on Monday, so do check that out. And as always, keep it locked and dialed to Gamebreaker TV for all your gaming needs.